Hey, we'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsor, iZotope, makers of software and plugins for audio repair, mixing, and mastering. We use iZotope products here at the High Gain. It's an important part of how we've been able to bottle pure podcast gold week after week. And guess what? iZotope offers 1 free month of Music Production Suite Pro, which has all the tools you need to mix, master, and repair audio. Also, you can get 10% off all other software using the promo code FRET10. That's FRET10. All of this is at iZotope.com, IZOTOPE.com.
Hey, it's me, Ed Peterson.
Hi, Ed. It's me, John Kiltica.
John, we're in beautiful West Seattle. It's the High Gain Podcast.
And it's foggy.
It's terrible out. It's wild. Spooky time.
Yeah.
2024, it's like a portent of things to come.
That's right.
What do we talk about?
We talk about guitars.
Yeah, exclusively.
Presidential politics of a sort.
2024, we brought an expert.
We did bring a presidential expert.
Yeah.
We brought Dave Dederer, erstwhile President of the United States of America. Hi, Dave.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Sorry that I blew my previous appointment, but I am here with beverages and donuts to make up for my complete fuck up.
Well, that's great because now it's the new year in the tomorrow times.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, Happy New Year.
Wow, you guys have sound effects.
Happy New Year.
Oh, God.
Ed hates that.
It's a soundboard.
I kind of liked it. It made this feel super pro. They got sound effects on the High Gain podcast. Those guys are so pro, I could hardly keep up.
Well, you got a guitar over there, huh, Dave?
I have my guitar, my main guitar, in my hands. This is my main guitar since the fall of 1995. It is a Fender Stratocaster.
Is that the best guitar?
This is the best guitar for me. What I'm holding in my hands is a 1994 or 1995 Mexican standard Stratocaster that originally came with whatever that medium, was it Daphne blue? What's the blue?
Oh,
that they were?
Yeah.
Blue body. Now, if you were to see it, has a maple neck. It has a 3-piece alder body from Stu-Mac that just has tongue oil on it. So when the Presidents made their first record, I did not even own an electric guitar. I owned a Korg tuner, a Sovtek Big Muff, and a TS-10, Tube Screamer 10. I think I had 2 acoustic guitars at home at the time. I played a borrowed Harmony from the 70s, which sadly got stolen out of Howard Johnson's parking lot in Denver. The guitar I made that multi-platinum record with is in a ditch somewhere in Denver because undoubtedly they stole all this stuff. They opened the case of that one, looked at it, and they're like, this is a $20 guitar with 3 strings on it, and they threw it out the window. So subsequently, as we started to play shows and get more successful and have more pressure, I started playing whatever inexpensive solid guitars I could find. Like at that time, American Music had PV tellies for just under $200, I think. Just a straight up telly copy. I had 2 of those, a white one and a black one. And we're playing at the old 930 Club in DC. It's one of the longest running, best run rock clubs in the country. And a guy from Sony Music showed up with, 30 boxes of new guitars for us to sign, right? And we're just ripping the boxes open, Chris and Jason and I, and pulling them out. They're in the plastic bags and just ripping the plastic off and signing them and putting them back in the boxes. Some of them were Fenders, some of them were not, some of them were Squiers. And I just opened one box. I reached in, grabbed the neck of this guitar that was still in plastic. And you know how it is. When you know. My hand was around the neck in the plastic, and I was like, hey, Sony guy, I'm keeping this one. You can have one of my PVs. I went backstage and set it up as one of our goofy 3-strings, and then I played it. I've played it almost every time I played a guitar since 1995. I threw this one with the original body across the stage at a gig sometime in probably 97 with No Doubt. I threw it across the stage at the end of the set, and it cracked down the middle of the body. Yeah, so when I got home, I just, ordered a body from Stuart McDonald and put it together. Give me a 6-pack of beer and some donuts and a Stratocaster, and I can play any gig, I think.
Beverages.
Yes.
I almost missed the beverage thing because I was just watching you play. I'm very used to watching John do that.
Do that E9 chord.
The whole thing.
What are you drinking there, Dave?
I said I would bring beverages and donuts because I missed my previous appointment. I felt bad. I have been drinking lately. I'm really enjoying Guinness Draft Stout in a can. I prefer it on tap, but I love Guinness because it's low in alcohol, which people don't get. It's actually very low in calories and low in alcohol. People don't think so because it's like it's all dark and foreign and scary. I can basically have maybe 2 drinks in a night without like getting naked and dancing on the bar, right? Do we have a donut segment as well? Because I did bring 4 donuts.
Yeah.
I'm going to have one of these sugar ones. You guys help yourself if you want.
We need to get our sponsor, Jeff, over here.
Does he play guitar?
I think he's a drummer.
Okay.
Jeff Silva over at Hotwire Coffee. He owns Hotwire, and they sponsor us.
Way to
He
go.
is the drummer for Hobosexual.
Oh, I need to come back and do a morning segment where I can drink coffee.
Yes. I've got Yogi Kava Stress Release. It eases tension and promotes relaxation. A nice little herbal tea.
And you're wearing your Uggs.
What do you think about my Uggs?
I think they're good.
Yeah?
You know, it used to be like Australian surfer dudes in tiny shorts, right?
Right.
But being, middle-aged dudes like ourselves and wearing them instead of being teenage girls or anorexic moms in Suburbans,
Right.
it's good that you're bringing it back.
John gives me no end of grief about me and my Uggs, and I love them, and they're so comfy. I go out in public, and I do feel like maybe people are eyeballing my Uggs.
Well, Dave mentions the Australian surfer dudes with the tiny
That's where it
shorts.
came from.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that to you once, Ed,
I know.
and you said you didn't know if you had the bravery to do it.
This year.
That's the thing about those Aussie dudes, man. That is effing studly to
Yeah.
be like a dude wearing super, super short shorts and some fuzzy boots.
Exactly. What do you got, John?
The brand name of this is Poppy. I've had it before. It's apparently some sort of prebiotic soda.
Oh, nice.
Raspberry flavored. It's very nice. There doesn't appear to... Oh, there is a slogan. It says pop culture.
I get it.
You know anything about Ted McCarty?
No, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Gibson electric guitars. I have an Epiphone Flying V that's a Flying V Junior. One pickup stop tailpiece, and I saw one online a few years ago for like $5,000 custom from some boutique shop in London, and I sent it to some guitar player friends, Kurt Block, Andrew McKeag, my doppelganger in the Presidents, and a couple other guys. I'm like, this is the coolest guitar I've ever seen. And Kurt was like, I can build one of those for you. Just get a shitty Epiphone Flying V and I'll paint it and do it. So that's my one set neck electric guitar right now, and it drives me bonkers. The string break, the head stock angle, trying to keep it in tune, the neck joints shifting around all the time. It drives me absolutely nuts. It looks cool. And I've had Les Pauls and SGs and all the rest, but I just could not get with it.
The Ted McCarty thing, his take on Fender was it doesn't take a lot of skill to take a hunk of wood and make it sound shrill. That was his Leo Fender review.
That's missing the point entirely. And it
Yeah.
misses the point of how electric guitar fits into an ensemble and what it needs to sound like to be functional in a musical group. I mean, there's so many examples, but Led Zeppelin's the best one. A lot of the guitar sounds on Led Zeppelin's best songs are tiny. They're scratchy little funky things. You know, Jimmy Page's genius wasn't in getting some huge guitar sound, as he just knew how to fit all the pieces together.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's not just... It's not much more than that. It's just a little bit of drive on it.
A little bit of drive.
Yeah. You know, when you've got the greatest drummer of all time in your band, just
Yeah.
let that fill out the space.
Did anybody ever try to get you into anything other than the Strat?
I tried playing a casino for a while, but nobody ever pushed us. I mean, Fender was happy to have me, but they didn't ever really push anything. They were really nice. You know, our first record, there's a little bit of 6-string, but I'm playing this 3-string instrument, which is basically just drop D down a half step. And Chris is playing the same tuning, just only 2 strings. That decreases your tuning stability even more. You've got these 3 floppy
Right.
strings on there, not putting much tension on the neck. So you really need the guitar to be as stable as possible.
That brings me to
Oh,
listener questions.
oh,
Oh,
man.
let's do it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hey Dave, Superfan Bender here. I have a question. During your career with your former band, you guys were always known for using one, sometimes two, and I believe three-stringed instruments. I want to know what the trial and error process was like in selecting the gauge for the strings and why you chose what you chose and why it worked best for you. Rock and roll forever.
Rock and roll forever. Good question. Chris, his first instrument's piano and keyboards, and he's actually a really good piano player. And then he came to guitar in high school kind of totally in his bedroom on his own terms. He has his own weird voicings that he does. He doesn't do anything like anybody else. He has a great ear. He just finds shit that sounds good. He didn't have any idea that I got to have a Strat through a Marshall with a fuzz face. I'm going to sound like Hendrix, you know. He didn't have any of that dogma. He already was messing around with taking strings off the instrument. Then he was in a band with Mark Sandman, the late, great Mark Sandman from Morphine, who in Morphine played two-string slide bass. We're all from here, but Chris lived in Boston and New York a little bit in the 80s and 90s, and he and Mark used to jam all the time. Mark would bring his two-string slide bass and bring some weirdly tuned, open tuning guitar for Chris. Chris and I started playing together when we were like 19. Played music together for 10 years before The Presidents happened. We've always had like a magic kismet. When he moved back to Seattle for good in the fall of 1993, we just did what we always did. I had a rehearsal space up on Capitol Hill, and he had these songs that he'd written in this open tuning. So for a while, I kind of tried to play six string on these songs, and then eventually after a few weeks, I just gave up and went to the three string tuning. Throughout, I played mostly in that root fifth. It's a drop D, but we were down a half step. Bender's going to get more than he bargained for. We ended up in C sharp because we had these shitty little like harmony guitars and stuff with movable bridges. And we would just tune as low as we could and still not be sharp at the 12th fret, right? So we just kept moving that bridge back and tuning by ear. We played shows for a year without even having tuners. We just tuned to each other. And eventually when we finally got tuners, like, oh, we're really close to C sharp, which was just as low as we could go and still have intonation. That's close right now. Anyway, by the end, I think I was just buying Ernie Ball skinny top, heavy bottoms and using the bottom three. Chris and I both experimented with using like the heaviest guitar string you could use on that C sharp, like 60, 62. Chris used a weird, really heavy string on the bottom, like a 62, because he just had these two. And we were tuned to the same notes. He wasn't an octave below me. He just thought like a bass player and had his strings spaced two apart, if you will, one missing in between them. Right. So it was almost like spacing on a bass where I had mine together. And thought like a guitar player, and I had a couple effects. He was like a 62 and then like a 32 or a 34 on top because he wanted it to be real bendy. One of the cool things about being in a root fifth, root is you're ambiguous in terms of major and minor, right? But the main thing was, will it stay in tune and will the gauges against each other intonate?
Was there one point or one song or one time where you realized that strategy was going to be the way to go?
There was. The first 8 or 10 gigs we played, we didn't play with a drummer because we didn't want to be loud. Chris had pretty bad tinnitus from playing too loud in a cinder block basement in Boston for years. And we played a bunch of gigs, just the two of us, usually with our two shitty $40 guitars, and we both plug into the same amp at some gigs. This is the height of grunge, kids, where like people are moving to Seattle from Phoenix and buying flannel, and every gig is like tons of hair and flannel and cutoff shorts and Doc Martens and Marshall stacks. I'd be like all dorky, preppy in my Oxford cloth shirt, and Chris would just be weirdo bald guy in spray painted gold boots. And we'd show up and just play Iggy Pop's TVI with no drummer. Do you see that kid down on the street? So we're playing that kind of shit with no drummer. It sounded pretty weird. What normal people, not guitar dorks like us, care about is the groove and the timbre of the singer's voice. That's pop music, right? So we were very conscious at that point of wanting to leave sonic space to hear the vocal melody and the words the first time. So if you come hear us at the Crocodile, you walk out singing a chorus to yourself, right?
Right.
Also, the cool thing about being in the weird tuning is you can play with all these rock cliches and tropes, but still sound different. So we kind of knew right away that it was working.
Yeah, it seems like imposing restrictions on yourself
Totally.
opens up a kind of freedom.
And we were super conscious of that.
What about the timing of when this all happened?
That's luck.
I bought the first album probably right when it came out. And I remember thinking, grunge? Not grunge. It was a delineation that I was kind of happy to hear.
We got asked about that so many times, especially you go to like Germany. You're from Seattle, you're not grunge. This is not possible. We're just doing what we've always done, which is write these stupid little pop songs and then figure out how to play them and try to get people to like them the first time they hear them. We were lucky in many ways because it was a breath of fresh air locally just for people going to shows. And yet we benefited because at that time, there were 7 or 8 major labels and almost all of them had sort of a stringer in Seattle.
Was there ever any backlash against what you did?
Right when the band started, Love Battery had made, I think, 3 records for Sub Pop, and they were just getting signed by A&M. And Jason still didn't commit. For him, The Presidents was kind of like his fun side band thing. We didn't hear this at the time, but everybody's like, dude, man, you go to The Presidents thing, stupid. You got to stick with Love Battery. You guys are going to break through. It's going to be amazing. The only person who championed us, I know, at the time was Kim Thale, who always dug what we were doing and got it right from the start. I'll never forget playing one of the early shows with Jason on the drums. Kim was right in front at the Crocodile. And I didn't know him. I might have met him before that, but I'm watching and I'm just like, whoa, man, this is like probably just going to shoot this shit down. And then, of course, he's like the nicest guy. He's like, oh, man, that was so cool. Honestly, that time before having a hit record, that's the most fun by far.
Right.
Because people don't hate you yet. We just didn't care. I really did not care. I still don't.
Back on the 3 strings, you said you pulled the Daphne Blue one out and just took it in back.
My 3-string thing was in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th slots.
Yeah.
Chris always did the 4th and 2nd slots.
Yeah.
So what I would do, I just go backstage and widen out the nut a little bit as needed. Somebody always had a Leatherman.
Having the 3 strings and being locked into that, putting those guardrails in place.
Yeah.
Did you find at times like, fuck these guardrails?
I never felt like we were limited at all. It forces you to have these different voicings that are cool and fresh sounding, even though the harmony and the chord progression you're playing is just from the pop warehouse of the last 70 years. Different inflection.
Let's see if you can figure this out, Ed.
Okay.
We have gleaned from Dave that this guitar, at least in its original form, is 1995, and it was new when he got it.
Yes.
It's 1995. You want to be Dave Dederer.
Right.
So what are you paying?
It was
Just a Mexican standard.
Made in Mexico. Yeah. Like, it couldn't have been more than, it was $182.
No, I think $299.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
We have had this conversation a lot lately. We're finding that the quality of the Mexican Fenders just keeps inching up, up, up.
Great.
You spent some time not in the Presidents and not playing music.
I've had 5 or 6 careers, yeah.
What were your careers?
Well, when I finished undergraduate school, I taught high school English and coached sports and took kids in the woods and like outdoor education.
Here in Washington?
In Denver for a couple of years. My last 2 years of school, I went on the East Coast. My only goal when I graduated was get west of the Mississippi. So I was in Denver for 2 years, and then I was in Seattle teaching for 3 years. I didn't want to keep being a teacher, and I almost went to law school, and I ended up going to grad school in urban design and planning, starting in the fall of 1993 at the UW. Then the Presidents happened out of the blue. It all blew up over the last year and a half of my 2 years of grad school. I literally left my last week of grad school to go to New York and sign the record deal. and finished my last quarter's work of grad school at Bob Lang Studios, sitting on the floor while we were remixing our first record to release it on Sony.
Wow.
You know, we're doing something they call a promo tour later in the summer. Record's coming out in July. Maybe I'll write my thesis in September. And the next thing you know, like, we've got a #1 record. So I did that, played music, and then I kind of went back into the public affairs thing in the early 2000s. And all through that, for various reasons, I became a quote-unquote thought leader in digital music.
Right.
And then the Presidents own our first record, and we got it back right sort of at the dawn of the iTunes store, the end of 2003. And we had to set up our own distribution. Through that and speaking at events and on panels and stuff, I got invited to be on the advisory boards of some digital music and media startups. So at the end of 2006, I joined one of those companies called Melodio. And we eventually sold it to Hewlett-Packard. And then I worked at Hewlett-Packard for 2 years. Then I was like, wow, I've worked at a big tech company that's sort of stagnant. What would it be like to work for one that's dynamic? Because scale's addictive, right? I'd been kind of a issues and education person in my 20s. I'd never thought about industry. So I kind of dug the scale part of tech. You can create something, and if you're at a big company or you have a viral hit, you can reach millions of people in a matter of days. I had some introductions at Amazon and ended up working there for almost 10 years. I was on the music team, and then I left a couple of years ago. I was done.
That's as good a segue as I'm going to get into another listener question.
Oh, let's do it.
Hey guys, Superfan Chris here. I saw an advertisement for a one-string guitar marketed towards parents looking to buy their kids a starter guitar. Is it worth getting anything with less than 6 strings? What do you think? Buy or deny?
Buy or deny. Is that a feature on all your shows?
Yeah, it is.
Buy or deny.
Oh, we have a whole theme song.
Really?
I should just probably play it, right?
Then I will render my judgment.
You gotta try it. Try and decide. Is it hello or goodbye? Buy or deny?
That reminds me of like 90s power pop. That's like a Fountains of Wayne song or something.
Oh.
Buy, because any instrument's good to have in the house. One thing I realized, and I didn't realize this until pretty much when we were done with the first pass of the Presidents. Growing up, we didn't have a piano in the house. Get a piano with that one-string guitar. But we had a dulcimer. My mom bought a dulcimer, but our tuning was an electric dulcimer.
Oh, funny.
A dulcimer is the root, the fifth, and the root. And I used to sit and play that thing for hours as a little kid, just, with it on my lap. So the point being, any instrument in the house that you can bang on and try to get music out of is a good idea.
That sounds like a buy.
It's a buy. Buy the 1-string and buy the 6-string and get a piano. For God's sake, I wish I'd had a piano growing up. The piano, you literally see music theory in black and white, right? All the white keys are the natural notes in the key of C. All the black notes are the notes that need to be substituted to have all your other keys.
Right.
You see the linear layout of the intervals of the notes, whereas on guitar, it's like, well, there's the frets down here are way far apart, and the frets up here are really close, and why is that? And, it's just baffling.
Yeah, the rhythm hand.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
To have a sense of time and have that right hand go and be solid. It's hard.
It's crazy.
Yeah, this is all great stuff. Motivation and creativity versus the tools we get hung up on.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I've done everything in the last few years, from just play straight into a Pro Junior, dimed, and run the volume knob with nothing, to recently at a pedal board with 7 or 8 different things on it. I played a bunch of shows recently with just a fuzz face on all the time and used the volume knob. It's very easy to get overly caught up in the tools.
It's such a good lesson. Close your eyes and just listen.
I just want to be in tune. Like, all I'm concentrating on now and being in all these bands and learn all these tunes, like, I want to play the right notes. I want to play them in time. And when I play them, I want them to be in tune. And that in and of itself is a lot,
Yeah.
What do people actually pay attention to?
Yeah.
One counterpoint to this, I do find that playing a different guitar will force me to play differently.
Totally. It does make you do something different.
Dave, we did a great job, right?
I've got hours more.
I think you have to give Ed a grade because he.
I really strive for feedback, positive feedback.
Yeah.
A+, Ed.
You nailed it.
You guys, since I flaked and missed the first scheduled time, you guys will both get A++, and I scrape by with a D.
Instagram.com, Dave Dederer.
Yeah. And come out January 12th to the Underhills at Madame Lou's at the Crocodile. It's the dorkiest band on earth, and I guarantee you will have a good time. If you don't have a good time, I will give you twice your money back.
Man, that's a heavy-duty guarantee.
Well, Dave Dederer, we got to thank you for showing up, finally.
Finally.
To talk to us. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
It was great. I'll come back sometime. And I mentioned a few people you should have on the show. I'd be happy to make some intros there. Definitely some other local characters you guys should have on.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah. And for the listeners, we're going to get some pictures of Dave Stratt. Maybe some pictures of Dave. Yep. We'll put them up where we put them on the Instagram. Remember, we're proud members of the Ruinous Media network of music-related podcasts.
Still, 2024, still a member.
Joe, the drummer over there, all those guys.
Who is your coffee sponsor again? Let's give him a pump.
Jeff Silva over there at Hot Wire Coffee.
Next one we do, I'll come in the AM and we'll drink some Hot Wire Coffee.
Oh, my God. That'll be the best. Right there on California Avenue, next to the post office.
And then us, we're thehighgain.com. We're The High Gain on Instagram. The High Gain basically everywhere. Go check it out. If you have any pointed, specific criticisms for Ed, he's available.
No, he only wants positive feedback. A+. Ed's A+ all the time.
Thank you.
So let's come back and do it next week, Ed.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, great.
Dave?
I'll come back anytime.
Great.
You know, I'm underemployed, semi-retired.
Perfect.
Well, that sounds like an agreement. See ya.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.